We had this break yesterday, and I find it curious that after comedian Michael Ian Black says he was told about the 2027 date impending, all of a sudden we get this update from Lue Elizondo of where 2027 comes from. And he says it comes from Space Force, which I had never heard until the dam started to break about who is in the back channel spreading this information. Let's see.
You're not the only one that said this. 2027 keeps coming up, and you just said later this year or in 2027. Why is 2027 the year that everybody keeps throwing around? Because it doesn't seem random to me. Well, everybody seems to be saying 2027.
Yeah, I've heard 2027. I also heard 2036. The capacity in which I heard it, I'd rather not get into. I heard it when I was working with U.S. Space Force, but it was to me it seemed more anecdotal. So
2027 when he was working with the Space Force, very interesting.
So I'm probably not best suited to answer that time wise, simply because I didn't come up with that time frame. Okay. But I, like you, I heard that as well, and certainly something we need to pay attention to.
Isn't that interesting? Now let me see. I'm trying to find this. Okay, here we go. I played this the other day, but I think it's worth noting. This on Area 52 podcast.
Some speculation, and I won't say specifics, that there may be something in later on, but the problem is I wouldn't go to the bank with it, and what the specifics are, because it's first of all it's hearsay, and it's also yes, there was an official effort by some people in the government to actually look at this data, and there were some products produced. That's a fact. I won't go into more detail on that, but it wasn't 2027.
Okay,
and it was based upon certain observations. And again, I can't. I'm very careful because what I don't want to do is people are going to take this. They're going to hang on to these words and say, "Lou said something's coming." No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there were some people who were anticipating something happening, and it was officially considered by some people, based upon certain things, and a product was written.
Let me pause.
Anything beyond that, I really don't want to discuss, because I think what happens is people take that and they take it to the bank.
Sure.
And that's very dangerous.
Let's go back to this. Let's run this back again. Because again, this is the new news of today. Is he's saying here the 2027 date from Space Force. Oh, you're not going to work on me? Oh, let's go back.
What's happening?
Look at the loop clips never work.
I was offered
it. Plug it. Let me see. I'm going to try one more time. Actually, we could do it on the feed. See this? You guys see how this works? I'm being remote viewed live in the space. Here we go. One more time.
You're not the only one that said this. 2027 keeps coming up, and you just said later this year or in 2027. Why is 2027 the year that everybody keeps throwing around? Because it doesn't seem random to me. Well, everybody seems to be saying 2027.
Yeah, I've heard 2027. I also heard 2036. The capacity in which I heard it, I'd rather not get into. I heard it when I was working with U.S. Space Force.
I heard it when I was working with the U.S. Space Force. Keep note of that. We're going to come back to that.
But it was to me it seemed more anecdotal. So I'm probably not best suited to answer that time wise, simply because I didn't come up with that time frame. Okay. But I, like you, I heard that as well, and certainly something we need to pay attention.
So he said he heard it at Space Force. Let's not forget this from last summer, which I'm going to do a full stream about this, because this clip caused such a shit show for my life. It was so annoying and so stupid. But here's Richard Doty saying that him and Lou worked Space Force disinformation together. So I find it interesting that now Lou's saying he got it at Space Force if he was a disinformation agent for Space Force. Is that why Lou's doing his final tour? Because he knows that it's going to be outed soon that like he's been a disinfo agent the whole time? Maybe.
I was offered a job in 2019 by the United States Space Force, where Lue Elizondo worked, to work with him in disinformation. And I said, not no, but hell no. I'll never do that again.
Did Lue bend the knee?
Worked for him. I don't know what he did. You'd have to ask Lou. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Let me see. Is there just someone else wanted to play on this beat? I mean, fuck it. Astral, friend of the show. He clipped up when Doty went into
Yeah,
space.
okay.
What were you were talking about?
Yeah.
All right, on to my question. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
What were you were talking about and referencing? Maybe shed some context on what was talked about with the Elizondo, with Space Force, all that.
Richard Doty claims that Space Force offered to work in disinformation with Lue Elizondo. Here to comment, Mr. Doty.
Yes. In fact,
Yes.
a few years ago, I spoke with Lou. He got a hold of me. This is when he began working for Space Force. And he asked me if I wanted a job. I said, doing what? And I knew of him, but I didn't know exactly what he was doing at that time. And he said, I'm working for U.S. Space Force in their counterintelligence office. And I have a guy up here, and he gave me the name of the person who I used to work with a long time ago. And he said, I would just wonder if you'd be interested to come up here to Colorado Springs and work with us. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not really interested in doing that anymore. I got out of it a long time ago, and I appreciate your offer. And he said, well, think about it and then get back with me. Well, I never got back with him. One of his colleagues contacted me, who actually sent me an email saying, Lou's still waiting for your response. And in that email, I said, no, I thank you very much for the offer, but I declined. I'm not going to be, I don't want to go back to work for the government. So I knew at that time, Lou was still in the government, working for Space Force. He actually, and I learned this later, he actually started, I could remember now, Space Force is a new branch of the government. He started a counterintelligence office within the Space Force. And then somehow, and I don't know how, you'd have to ask Lou or somebody else, his job was terminated, and then he moved on just to the private sector. Now, he's made statements, I saw his statements, that he still works, once in intelligence, you're always in intelligence, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But that's why I always tell people, I mean, Lou is a nice guy. He's a very friendly person, but you got to be careful what you tell him and what you do when he asks you to do something. So I just give that advice to people. And if you want to believe him and do whatever he wants, that's your business. But if he's still somehow for counterintelligence, whether within Pentagon or maybe within a contractor, because contractors, I know Lockheed has their own intelligence division, as does Raytheon. So you just got to be careful, and that's what I know about Lou and his connection still within counterintelligence.
So just to confirm.
Okay, so I'm gonna do another stream eventually about this whole timeline because it's hilarious because Doty flip-flopped back and forth. Actually, I can maybe do a little bit right now. Let's see. Fuck it, we're doing it live. This is why we do it live. What do I want to do? Oh, and actually, it's gonna tie in perfectly into like our other story coming up here too, which is Doty had a hilarious walk back over this shit. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Look at what Doty, after saying all that shit and saying it publicly twice in multiple spaces, how he acted about it. Very funny.
I was offered a job in 2019 by the United States Space Force, where Lue Elizondo worked, to work with him in disinformation. And I said, no, but hell no. I'll never do that again.
Last night on A Space, I told a story about Lue Elizondo asking me to work for Space Force within the counterintelligence office. I declined his offer. At no time did I make a statement that Lue wanted me to work as a disinformation agent for Space Force against the public. That is a complete lie. Those who posted that video and those who made that AI of me are now blocked by.
He accused us of making an AI clip because I clipped that shit up when he said that. He's like, oh, that's an AI clip. It was hilarious, but that's his own stream. It was a crazy fucking thing. I had to like involve my local sheriffs because his little fanatics were like harassing me and threatening me and my sister. It It was a whole ordeal, and that was before even the more recent Lue Elizondo fanatic shit. But that's for another day. Story for another day. But just know, like, me covering this shit for a while, I've noticed that, like, whenever like some stuff gets like a really strong, crazy psycho reaction, there's probably something to it. So I had never seen a reaction quite like that as when Doty said he was offered a job to work Disinfo with Lue at Space Force. So I don't know. All right.
There's a
little bit more too. Here's him talking about Grusch and Lue and Space Force. Fuck it.
saying we have. First of all, you deny everything, you admit nothing, and then you make counter accusations, right? And so there is this spectrum of efforts that happen when there's an inconvenient conversation to have in the government. The first thing they do is they deny it, and then when they can't deny it anymore, they'll start trying to take away someone's credibility, like they do with Dave Grusch. Like 24 hours of him coming out and this, by the way, is an American hero. This guy, I know personally. I worked with him at Space Force. He is exactly who he is. We had the same briefings together. We saw the same UAP data, right? So he comes out and says the truth. And within 24 hours, 2 guys from CIA leak medical data and try to use his PTSD against him. Now, how disgusting is that, right?
Oh,
and totally, by the way, that was, if I were to go ahead in the government and release someone's private data, I'd go to jail.
He probably did. Lou's crew is the one who dogs David Grusch. All right, we're going to keep it moving because we do got food in the oven.